Hello everyone, and welcome to the Shakespearean Shrew. Yes, you heard that right, we've had a name change because why? Well, Musings with the Shakespearean Shrew is a mouthful. So we're changing it up a little bit, but I am still your Shakespearean Shrew, Karen Feiner, professor from the University of Oklahoma and lover of all things bard. This podcast is going to be a decorum be damned entrance into understanding Shakespeare's stages, for there are many, and all the players on it. Today, we are at the Mermaid Tavern with Justin Marlow, who is in his directorial debut of Macbeth and playing Macbeth. That is quite the culmination of things happening at the same time.
Just a little bit.
How's that going?
Well, it's going. I can't be more than grateful for the opportunity to both direct and be the man himself. It's a great gift that Tyler has given not only myself, but Dylan Raspberry and Belle Reeves, that we can be the front runners for this emerging artist collective and give emerging artists in the community a chance to create some really cool art, something innovative, and breathe fresh air into these scripts that have been around for 400 years.
So you talk about breathing fresh air into these scripts. Where does that fresh air show up in the foul and fair of Macbeth?
So the biggest thing is going to be it's in a Western. So it's set in 1890s, and M and Lady M are both a lot younger than most people would expect. And we're checking out how ambition can affect someone, how the promising of being king or being the head of something can affect you. And if you're not careful, if it totally corrupt you and take you over.
Yeah, I think that's a great part to start with, because really the question always comes down to whose fault is what happens.
Yeah.
Who starts what happens in Macbeth? You know, I've heard, people say, oh, the witches started it, right? Their fault. I've heard people say, Lady Macbeth, if she hadn't done what she had done, it would have never gotten as far as it did. And of course, there's some people who are like, oh yeah, no, the man himself.
He did kill the people. I think everyone's at fault. And it kind of goes to show humanity. There's a lot of humanity in the play. Everyone is wrong at some point. Nobody is perfect. And that's one of the reasons I love this show so much, is it's almost like a direct mirror to how people are. Because no one's going to make the correct move all the time. And so it's really cool to see these things play out, and it's kind of cool to watch people make mistakes on stage. Like this character, he wants something so bad, he wants to be king, but he breaks a lot of eggs to make this omelet, and to his own detriment ends up frying the kitchen in the process.
Yeah, it goes down in flames.
It goes down in flames, just a couple.
Okay, so really great point, something that I actually wanted to ask about, because that's one of the things I struggle the most with Macbeth, is what he really wants at the end of the day. And that for me, and you said, he wants to be king, and in a way I absolutely agree. It's kind of the driving force in the play.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's almost a reluctance to get there.
Well, he wants to be king, and he wants everything to go right. He wants his wife to be happy, he wants his friends to be happy, and he even has this really good line in his speeches, that if it were done when 'tis done, 'twere well if we're done quickly speech. He's saying if all these things could happen and no consequences, it'd be perfect. So that's the main thing that's holding him back, of if I can only be king, but I don't want to kill this person, I don't want to kill this person doesn't really need to die, this doesn't really need to happen, and if all that can go away and I can be at the top, that'd be great.
Why can't that work out for all of us?
Right. Yeah. Why are there obstacles in the way?
So we have a very similar trajectory, it seems. So starting out on the East Coast, going to the West Coast.
Yes.
And ending up in the middle.
Right.
That's, I was like, oh, we have a story, a very similar one. And so I have to ask, as an actor, going from New York to LA, Why?
Well,
I mean, we're so happy you're here.
that's the golden question. Thank you. I'm glad to be here. That's the golden question. I mean, for New York, I was only technically there for a year. I'd love to go back there just to see it. But LA, so I started acting when I was in high school. I wanted to be a rock star for the longest time. I started playing guitar when I was 11. Before that, I was a blacksmith apprentice, doing horseshoes and stuff like that. Picked up the guitar. I was like, I want to be like Led Zeppelin. I want to be that. But no one else in my school was really playing rock music and stuff like that. So I found musical theater. I did a show. I did The Addams Family my sophomore year, and the teacher at the time, Jeremy Kent Jackson, kind of took me under his wing. And year after year, I did Romeo and Juliet with him and Almost Maine and all these things. And I was like, I really have an appreciation for language and telling stories. And when it came time for college, he had moved on to be a dean of a college at the time. And I was like, hey man, I'm gonna go to your college. It seems really cool. It's in LA. Seems like the natural step. And he's like, oh, that's cool, man, that's cool. He's like, have you checked out OU? And I was like, Oregon? He's like, no. He was like, Oklahoma. I was like, Oklahoma? Brother, we're in LA. We are in the heart of it. He's like, yeah. He's like, that's cool and all, but check out OU. They're gonna really teach you how to act. They're gonna teach you things that I can't teach you.
So you were telling us about how you got brought into the OU fold.
So yeah, he was like, check it out. I was like, all right. So I auditioned. I never went to Oklahoma. I never visited OU's campus. I got accepted, and I asked him, I said, is this a good school? He's like, they're going to train you to be a fantastic actor. And I said, all right, that's all I need to know. I accepted blind, and 4 years later I graduated, and now 1 year later here I am.
Wow, that's an amazing story, and it makes me like my university so much more.
It's a great education. I've learned so much, not only just for acting, but just as a person. I love the people here. They've just got great, warm hearts, and there's just so much caringness that I love here, and I wouldn't want to trade that for anything right now.
I mean, again, we are so delighted that you are here. And I guess the question then becomes, how do we keep you here, and how do we keep more actors here?
Well, that is a fantastic question. So, I think OSP is on the right track with the Emerging Artists Collective. These types of programs are the perfect platforms for us to stick around, giving us opportunities like to direct. I mean, before this show, I was just strictly kind of actor and stage combat choreographer, until Tyler approached me and was like, hey, have you thought about directing before? I was like, no. He's like, well, would you like to? And I was like, yes. And he was like, well, I'd also be interested to have you play the man himself. And I was like, oh, okay. But it's really cool to have those opportunities, because in a normal scenario, you probably wouldn't be able to co-direct and play the man himself. So to have this program where we can make these new stories, do roles that we haven't done before, like scenic design, I scenic design the set that we have. That's something I normally wouldn't do. So giving young artists these chances that we normally wouldn't have is a fantastic way to get young artists to stick around and come to Oklahoma.
Heard. Okay, so like you said, playing the main character and directing the play, not really something usually done. And you've got the three amigos, you've got the power team, as it were, to kind of help get through this. But how did it change your perception of the play? Did it impact any of your choices as a director as you were reading through your role, understanding?
Well, it's cool because I got to see the whole picture from the very beginning when we started this thing 9 months ago to how it is now. So I saw kind of the general painting we wanted to create with this. And sometimes as an actor, you just kind of thrown in at the very end and we're like, this is the idea that we have, now go do it. Which I mean, that's an amazing way to do, and I feel like there's a lot of creativity that happens in the room because of that. But being able to be with this project as incubated, I could see the care and the moments that we were trying to create, and being able to play the guy on stage, I was able to figure out, okay, well, we want this to happen. Oh, well, I remember this conversation we had then. Oh, we want this to happen. Oh, the character's this. Lots of moving parts were happening on stage. But because of the team that we had, we were able to, in the room, be like, all right, now I'm acting. Or when I'm out of the room, okay, now I'm co-directing with y'all. And we could kind of divide parts and divide and conquer.
Very nice. Okay, and so you've got Dylan and Belle,
yes,
and yourself, and it's so interesting because all three of you seem to have these different aspects and different hats that you wear in addition to being actors.
Yeah.
Right. Each one of you has another aspect. Like Belle's an intimacy designer. I just found out that you are also a fight choreographer, and I was like, okay, and I think that is such a big part of it. Is you can't just wear one hat in this world. You've got to wear quite a few.
Yeah.
And so with that, again, as we're thinking about relationships, as you're thinking about is the word family, maybe?
Yeah.
That comes from the theater world? Because when I was in it, it was a very debaucherous family, but it was a family nonetheless. And so I'm wondering if that still rings true, and if it's multiple families within each production, or if it's just kind of a larger community.
Well, I think you're right there. It's a very large community, and we have so many families in this community, but at the same time, we are all part of this family, and we all are striving to tell stories and make a difference with the art that we're creating. But it is really kind of, like Dylan, for example, he works at Edmond North High School, and that was kind of my connection to start doing combat for them. So I did a production for him, and then word got out that I was also doing a production at Edmond Memorial, and then I turned it into Edmond Santa Fe. So it goes, it's like kind of like a spider web. It all will branch out, and that's really cool because your family kind of starts to branch. It didn't just start with North. Now I was at Memorial and Santa Fe and OSP and Heritage Hall. So it's cool how it grows, and you get to meet new artists and their take of how they want to do art and how we want to tell these stories to people.
I think it's so interesting because a lot of times as audience, we tend to infiltrate these families, and we get to know actors so well. It's so different. On a screen, you see an actor and you might covet that actor themselves, or you might covet the idea of what they have or what they're able to do. But when you see them on stage, it's almost like you build a relationship with them.
Yeah.
And I say that because, after Born with Teeth, in which you were Christopher Marlow,
yes,
my friend Michelle and I walked into Kitchen 324 in Oklahoma City, and we go, we know you. And you're just sitting there smiling at us like, oh God. And, we said, look, we know you from this. And I have to ask, when these people come up to you and they're like, we know you, is it a you don't know me moment, or is it a you know me moment? Like, is it like a fun feeling? Is it like a why does everybody think they know me because they see me in one character?
No, it's super fun. I think you're right. They do know a part of me, and the coolest part about theater is we are all creating this thing in a moment. It's only going to be there once, and it's gone. That's the really, really cool thing about it. Yes, we're doing 12 shows of Macbeth, and we did 8 shows of Born with Teeth. Every single one of those shows is different. It's still the same story, and we're still doing the same thing, but the energy, what the audience brings, they are that last character that we can't do until we bring it in front of an audience. So, yeah, part of me, anytime someone recognizes me, I'm like, hey, we did a show together, and that's awesome. So I love it. I want to know their name. I want to get to meet them, because I'm like, I wouldn't be doing it without y'all. So that's awesome.
I feel seen.
You are seen.
So, okay, so you've got to tell me a little bit about Macbeth, because I get to see it on the 10, and I'm so excited. But I have also heard so much about its reception and the fact that it is selling out like hotcakes. And so, what has the experience been like so far? How has it been with the audience? Any things you want to reveal?
I say this all the time, and as corny as it is, it's so true. This show is a rodeo and a half. This show, it bucks, it turns, it does everything a bull would do. It's such a fun show to do, and I'm so grateful that I get to do it all these nights. The coolest part about Macbeth is how much he connects with the audience. The audience is almost like his best friend for this show. He tells them the things that are bothering him the most, and the audience is really the only people that get to see him in the most distress until the very end, and some little points in between. They see him at his most vulnerable, which is really, really cool to see someone who, like with the name Macbeth and all that comes with it, to see them broken is really, really cool. But yeah, it turns, you see this person who is your average guy. Macbeth is no different than Joe Schmo walking on the street, who might have, split a guy from the nape to the chops, but that's neither here nor there. But you see how ambition takes him over, and it's really cool to watch how he changes from the very first time you see him to the very last time you see him. It is night and day, and that's a really cool transition to have.
Oh, I can't wait to see that. I'm sure it will be amazing. Have there been any unexpected moments, unexpected audience reactions or lack of reactions where you're like,
Let's see. There have been, so going back to those speeches, I tell most of them directly to an audience member. I want them to be on my side. And I think there's a little bit of shock and of like, oh no, you're doing a bad thing, but it's kind of cool. That's kind of it's fun to watch their reaction and to watch the shock come over them when I'm talking about Banquo, and just like, yeah, we're gonna kill Banquo, and this is the right thing that we need to do, and everyone's like, okay. What you're saying is so scary, but you're saying it with such confidence. How could I not? That's fun to watch every night, to watch them all be like, oh, this guy's nuts.
And I mean, to be fair, you're talking to us about being, the audience being your best friend, and your friends don't have a good track record. I mean,
no. Yeah.
We don't last long.
No, which is ironic. I mean, the audience is the one that lasts the longest. Yeah, my best friend Banquo, well, he dies. Well, there's Duncan. Yeah, he doesn't. Yeah. Not someone you'd want to get a cup of coffee with.
In terms of you and Lady Macbeth, what is that relationship like between you? Because that is one of the greatest, in my opinion, relationships.
Oh, for sure.
So how has that played out in your version?
Well, that's a great question, and especially that we've said it in the 1890s, and how relationship dynamics can work back then, and to how Lady M works in the play. She is a big driving force, not to be reckoned with, and they are a team for this. If one fails, the other one's gonna fail. So they are both in it together of ambition. I think they are both ambition for two different reasons. I think ultimately they want to be king and queen, but I think they kind of start in two different places, and then they meet somewhere in the middle, and then all of a sudden they go two different directions. And it's really interesting to watch how they intertwine and then shoot back out, and how one's on board with it and the other one's not on board with it, and then all of a sudden they flip-flop. And it's really cool to watch that play out, especially for our production.
So this is a very emotionally fraught play, but it's also very action-driven.
Yes.
And I think it's so interesting because you talked about the fact that you played guitar, probably still do play
Yes,
guitar,
yeah.
that you were a blacksmith's apprentice, although I'm guessing that's probably not still in action. But each thing you've done has been action-driven.
Yes.
And to be an actor is, in fact, to be action-driven.
Yeah.
And you're playing a role that is, I would go out on a limb and say maybe the most action-driven of these roles. So how does that, is that something that you really connect with in a way? Is that, something that's off-putting about him? Because then, next up is Hamlet. The man who makes no actions.
Yeah. Well, I love how you bring up Hamlet and Macbeth because they big talkers and they're in these plays a lot, but they handle situations so differently. Macbeth is a doer, Hamlet's a thinker, and it's cool to play someone who's a doer, but also has those moments, those soliloquies where he's like, is this the right thing to do? And then does it. And that's why I love this play so much, because I'm like, he's such a human being. We all have those moments where I'm like, I need to do this thing. Is this the right thing to do? Yeah, because I'm gonna do it. It's very relatable. Hopefully not to the extent of Macbeth, but there is that coolness of conscience being involved and how that can affect actions. And that's a really cool roller coaster to go on each night.
Back to your rodeo.
Back to the rodeo, yeah.
So, in terms of Shakespeare, you mentioned that you were in Romeo and Juliet.
Yes.
Way back when.
Yeah, back in high school.
Was that your first experience with Shakespeare?
That was my very first experience. I remember reading Romeo and Juliet like freshman year of high school, and we watched the Leonardo DiCaprio version of it, and I remember everyone being like, Leonardo is so amazing. And I was like a freshman, I wasn't really paying much attention to it. But once sophomore year came around, or junior year came around, and I was Tybalt in that production, I love the feeling of how the words would just throw all the energy out, and it was very action heavy. And I love that. The words, we were playing chess with our words, we were fighting with our words. And there was also a lot of stage combat in that, which kind of segued me into learning about stage combat. But that was kind of what got me bitten by the theater bug, was that production. And then I was lucky enough to be Mercutio in the last production we did here at OSP. And it was really cool to revisit that show. But yeah, that Romeo and Juliet was kind of my main kickoff point for my love of Shakespeare and love of language.
Oh, I can so see you playing Tybalt. That's a great first role. I like it a lot.
I was wearing leather pants, clean shaven. Oh, it was great.
It was epic.
Yes.
Sounds epic. So in terms of how you've kind of grown with Shakespeare, your love of the language, what would you say for people who find the language an obstacle? Because I think for so many people, they don't come to Shakespeare productions because it's in Elizabethan English, it's in early modern English, and they're like, I'm not gonna get it.
Yeah. Well, I was even told when I was doing that high school production, I was like, or my director said, the audience is not gonna get it all, so don't worry about that. Try your best, deliver all the messages you can. They're gonna get what they can. But to someone who is apprehensive about that early English, is just take a leap of faith, listen, don't try and fight it. Your ears will automatically tune to the language. Just be open and present with the actors, and they'll do the rest for you. There's something really cool when actors make that language click. It's like we're speaking another language, that the audience is right there with us. And that's something really, really cool that I find happens very commonly in Shakespeare. There's a way that he wrote of like the way the meter is written. Those words that he really wants you to hear will pop out. So you're gonna get the story. one way or another. He wrote to multiple levels. He wrote to the groundlings, and he wrote to the queen. So you could have the highest education of language, have the biggest degree, know every single word. You could also have none, and you're still going to get something from those stories, which is amazing with stories, with Shakespeare.
Yeah, and I would actually even argue that one of the great things is that we get different things.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I understand things and I'm like, oh, like I understand these nuanced aspects. And other times I just want to sit back and enjoy the ribald jokes and be like, nah, I'm just here for it. I'm just here for the body humor. And and so I do love that aspect that you're talking about, that there are the different levels. And I love hearing my students' reactions. I brought them to see 12th Night, and they were like, I got it.
Yeah.
I actually understood it. I understood what was going on. And then an actor sat in my lap. But that engagement, that interaction, I think that is where understanding starts to emerge.
Yeah.
I think it kind of goes back to the story of you talking to one audience member and they're like, oh God.
Yeah. And I think, everyone's going to get what they need to get out of it. There's multiple points of the story. We have the Porter speech. It's a very comedic speech full of that body humor and all that stuff. We also have some very, very potent speeches like the Tomorrow speech, which every single time I do it, I discover something new about it. Something about life too. Shakespeare wrote it to, like you're mining. You're gonna dig something up every single time and you're gonna get a gold nugget of something that he was trying to convey about life and how we should go about living it.
And that rhythm of it. It's one of his most famous lines.
Mm-hmm.
It's also in Iambic pentameter.
Yeah.
And so I think that a lot of his most famous lines have that rhythm where you just, it's almost hypnotic.
It is. I would like to think like everyone's heartbeat kind of becomes in sync. I've heard like they do studies of that, like in theaters and stuff, and everyone's heartbeat will like sync up. So if there's one point of the play,
favorite character or your favorite line, or all three.
Ooh, okay. Is that for Shakespeare?
You know what? No.
No?
Whatever you want.
All right. Well, it would be Shakespeare. I did have this one play I did in college that was just so amazing to do every night. It was my dream role since my freshman year, so it stuck very close to my heart. It was Burn This by Lanford Wilson, and I got to play Pale. That possibly is one of my favorite plays. However, it's a very somewhat similar arc to Macbeth in the point of both Pale and Macbeth, though very, very different, both show how vulnerable people want to be and just how broken on the inside we can be. And I find that very, very beautiful. So I'll say non-Shakespeare, Burn This. Shakespeare, I'll go Macbeth. Character, I'm gonna say Mercutio. I love playing Mercutio, and I love the story that he tells and just how witty he is. And what was the third one?
And then the third one is line.
Line. That's a hard one. There's so many in Macbeth, it's so hard to choose one. Full of Scorpions is my mind. I love that because it creates such a beautiful picture. And I feel like we can all be like, I remember one of my mind was full of scorpions.
Yeah. It was yesterday.
It was yesterday. It was 2 hours ago.
So, do you take what happens, you just mentioned that beautiful line, and it just made me think, do we take what happens off stage in our lives and bring it on stage with us, or do we leave it off stage? So, the experiences that we've had, the traumas that we've had, as actors, do you think that you personally or you collectively use those on the stage? Or is that more like, I get to be somebody else on this stage?
Well, I can't speak for everyone. I know for me, it's a really cool escape to be someone else for just a little bit, to tell that story. But I will definitely say there are multiple things in my life, multiple lessons that I've learned. I don't use that as fuel for the fire, but I will use that knowledge I have to inform decisions of how this character would behave, or how something's going to turn out, or something that the character wants. And that's the beauty of having different actors play these roles that have been around for so long, because Denzel Washington's Macbeth is different from Tyler Woods' Macbeth or my Macbeth, because we've all lived so many different situations, different lives. We bring so many different things to the character. So it's impossible for them to be the same, because we are going to think and act differently and bring our own experiences to the table. And that's, I think, the beauty of watching all these different actors play these roles and why they've been around for so long.
Well, and you said something before we even started recording about the 9-month gestation period of this production.
It has been a journey and a half. I remember I was like, it's like birthing a child, although I know nothing of that, but someone could imagine. It's like we were there when it just started, just the idea of like, hey, we could do Macbeth. And now 9 months later, after concept, after ideas twisting and turning and morphing and growing and blossoming, and then to casting and to seeing these characters take on someone and then their interpretation of it. We thought this character was going to be one way, and then all of a sudden 180 got told another way. And we're like, well, now we can't see it the other way because this is perfect. So it's been really, really cool to watch this thing bloom and grow and prosper.
Well, it's just such a great comparison because, a human is born and created as something new, this new force of life, and you have basically created that. You have created this new force of life that has never been done. Like you said, it's different than any other Macbeth.
Yeah.
And that's 400 years plus in the making.
Yeah.
This is something new.
Yeah. And there's something like really liberating about that, because there are no wrong answers, because there are no right answers on it as well. We are creating this thing from the ground up. We have an amazing script that Shakespeare left us. But as Tyler was telling us, these scripts are meant to be looked at and, well, maybe this means one thing, maybe it means another. Maybe this character's doing this, maybe he's doing that. What happens if it is set in the West? How does that affect it? So it's really cool to experiment with it and just to yes and the entire project. Yeah.
Love that. Okay, so just so everybody knows, we were not kidding when we said it's selling out.
Yeah.
This production is selling out fast. And so I know that there's tickets available for next weekend.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody, so your last chances to see Macbeth are the 15th, 16th, and 17th, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, because Sunday is already sold out. So get your tickets as fast as possible. Get them now. Right now. Just go. The link is below.
Link is below.
So as you come, there's an amazing exhibit in front where you can immerse yourself in cowboy culture. There's some saddles around and horseshoes and all the old school stuff. So come and kind of get a feel for that while you're wandering around. You can also grab yourself a sassy sarsaparilla or an El Paseo. Either one are amazing.
Yeah.
I've tried them both. And so I can vouch. So come on out. Don't forget, we also have the 40 for 40 going this month. This theater and I am turning 40 years old. God help us all. And in celebration of the theater, not my age, we are doing a 40 for 40, which means that we are just asking all of our lovers of Shakespeare to donate $40 to help us keep going for another 40 years. So if you have 40, great. If you have 4, great. And come see the show, right? This is a great opportunity and to see something new that you'll never see again.
Yeah.
I cannot thank you enough for coming to talk to us. This has been so much fun.
Thank you guys very much. I appreciate it.
And we will see the show this Saturday.
Excited to see you there.
Thank you all for listening. I would love your feedback. What did you like? What do you want to hear more about? And then I also want to give a huge shout out to Savannah Dillard, who has been listening and commenting and liking our posts, and we love you. So everybody else, please keep listening, please keep commenting. Put your thoughts on the polls at the end of our podcasts, and you know, we actually have some theater tickets that we're going to be giving away soon, so stay tuned. Just remember, all the world's a stage, and you too can be a shrew.